It's been over 48 hours since the Israeli military gave a warning to 1.1 million civilians in Gaza to evacuate in preparation for a ground offensive. Joining us tonight is the international spokesman for the Israeli Defense Force, Jonathan Conricus. Jonathan, I know your country is at war, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and our viewers tonight. There is news that the Rafah border in Egypt will be open for Palestinian foreign nationals, including Americans, to get out in just a few hours and for aid to come in. Can you tell us tonight, categorically, that there will be no bombing or shelling near this area as people are trying to cross and humanitarian assistance is trying to get in?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for having me. And I'll repeat what I said that wasn't audible. We've already tried with the Egyptians and the Americans and others to coordinate the safe passage of Americans out of the Gaza Strip. We were for it and, of course, made sure that there was no military activity of ours in the area, but it was stopped by Hamas. So it's very much up to Hamas to decide if they're going to allow and what is going to happen. Of course, anything humanitarian coordinated with Israel, with the government or with the military will be respected clearly.
Jonathan, IDF is reporting that there are 126 hostages confirmed. These are people kidnapped by the terrorists of Hamas that unleashed so much evil on your people. Has there been any communication between Hamas and Israel or a third party like another country on freeing those hostages?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I don't have to remind you about Gilad Shalit, but many of our viewers may not be as familiar. He was an Israeli soldier that Hamas kept hidden for 5 years, 5 long years. It took a prisoner swap of 1,000 Palestinian prisoners to get him back. What makes you think Hamas will negotiate with you or the U.S. for those American hostages?
What Hamas will do is of less concern. And without going into politics and strategy, I don't think that Israel is looking to negotiate. What we are going to do is to dismantle Hamas, its military leadership, its military capabilities, so that at the end of this war, Hamas doesn't have any military capability. And of course, it is our intention and commitment to the families of those held hostage to bring those Israelis home.
I know you were aware of that convoy of Palestinians that was struck, 70 people, including children, trying to flee Gaza. Palestinian media, there are reports that it was an Israeli airstrike. I know Israel is denying those reports. What is your understanding of what happened, and was it an Israeli airstrike that killed those innocent Palestinians?
Well, we're in a war zone, and when in war, lots of things happen at the same time. War also encompasses the information realm. And what we have said unequivocally, Brigadier General Hagari, the IDF spokesperson, and everybody else, is that clearly we have not targeted any convoy, any civilians on that road, specifically on that road and nowhere else in general, but specifically to that location, clearly no purposeful targeting. It may have been an incident of fire around it, but that is very unlikely. And what I would want to bring to the fore is the fact that the Gaza Strip is governed by a terrorist. Yeah, I'd just like to complete and say.
Yeah, Jonathan, I just want to stop. Yeah, Jonathan. I just want to stop you for a moment because this sounds a little different than what we've heard from Israeli officials. Are you saying there's still a possibility that it was indeed an Israeli airstrike? It might have been a mistake, but it might have been Israeli bombs that killed those 70 people?
So that was before, in the mid-sentence, that's where I was getting to. Gaza Strip is governed by a terrorist organization that has a long track record, proven record, of lying, falsifying, and dealing in misinformation. We assess that it is Hamas who, in fact, staged these explosions. and Hamas is responsible for what happened here. And at this stage, we have looked into the information provided by journalists. We have tried to corroborate questions and understand what happened. It is a very chaotic environment. And what I can say clearly, unequivocally, is that we did not, in any case, target any convoy. But I want to be on the safe side and say, things can happen in war, but there was definitely nothing purposeful. And I think that the investigation should be looking at who would stand to gain from such a convoy being attacked, specifically on the route that we made sure would be open for evacuation. And the answer is clear. The organization that stands to gain from this is Hamas. And unfortunately, I don't think it would be beneath Hamas to attack their own civilians if they think that it would gain them anything in the realm of diplomacy or international public opinion.
Jonathan Conricus with the IDF. We thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.